My name's Jake, and up until last semester, I thought living alone while my parents worked overseas was the ultimate freedom. No curfews, no rules, just me, my beat-up Honda, and a crappy off-campus apartment that smelled like old pizza. The only downside, grocery runs. I hated them. So when I discovered delivery apps, it felt like a lifesaver. At first, everything was normal. Different drivers, no weirdness. But then he started showing up. Same guy, every single time, no matter which app one used or what time I ordered. Tall, with this hunched posture like he was trying to make himself smaller, and eyes that never quite looked at me, but through me. His voice was barely above a whisper when he'd say, "Order for Jake," but the way he lingered at the gate, staring at the house like he was memorizing it, made my skin prickle. I told myself it was just a weirdo with a side gig, until the night I found that bag.it was raining when I noticed the first red flag. I'd ordered snacks around midnight, and the app said my delivery was left at the front door. Except it wasn't. I checked the porch, the steps, nothing. Then I saw it. A single plastic bag sitting inside my fenced backyard, propped against the back door like someone had walked right in. My stomach dropped. I never used that door. The lock was rusted shut. I grabbed a baseball bat and checked every room, heart hammering, but found nothing. The next morning, I scrolled through my security cam footage, expecting to catch a glitch or a misplaced order. Instead, I saw him. The delivery guy, no bag in hand, no uniform, just standing at the edge of my driveway 3 days before I'd even placed that order. His head tilted slightly, like he was listening for something. And then, clear as day, he turned and smiled right at the camera. After that, I stopped ordering groceries altogether. I'd rather starve than see him again, but it didn't matter. He kept coming, not for deliveries, just because. One morning, I found the side gate unlatched, swinging in the wind like someone had forgotten to close it. Except I never used that gate. The latch was stiff, rusted shut from years of neglect. That same night, the motion light in the backyard flicked on at 3 a.m., illuminating the overgrown grass in jagged slices. I crept to the window, bat in hand, but saw nothing, just shadows. Then, a glint, something small and metallic near the fence. When I checked at dawn, it was one of my kitchen knives, clean but placed blade down in the dirt. My throat went dry. That knife had been in my drawer the night before. I knew it. The cops shrugged when I showed them the footage. No forced entry, no threats. The officer said, clicking his pen like he was bored. "You sure you didn't just drop the knife yourself?" I wanted to scream. Instead, I spent $300 on new locks, cameras with floodlights, and an alarm system that beeped loud enough to wake the dead. For a week, nothing happened. I almost convinced myself I'd overreacted, until the night I woke up to the sound of my fridge door closing. Not slamming, closing, like someone was being careful. My blood turned to ice. I'd bolted my bedroom door since the knife incident, but now I regretted it, trapped, with no way out. The security app showed all doors locked, no alerts. But when I forced myself to check the kitchen at sunrise, there was a single can of soda on the counter, condensation pooling around it. Strawberry Fanta, my favorite. I hadn't bought any in months that I started sleeping with the bat next to my bed, but it didn't help. The noises got worse, not loud, just wrong. A scrape of shoes on the back porch. The faint creak of the gate hinges. Once, I swear I heard humming. This tuneless drone that made my spine lock up. The cameras caught nothing. Just empty frames, or worse, blurry streaks where his face should have been, like the lens couldn't focus on him. My friends thought I was paranoid. "Dude, it's probably just a glitch," my roommate from before he dropped out said. But then he came over and saw the Fanta can. His smirk died. "Okay, that's fucked up." We checked every window, every vent. Nothing. But when he left, he texted me, "Your motion light just turned on. No one's there." I didn't sleep for 2 days. Then the photos started. I found the first one taped to my mailbox, a Polaroid of me, asleep in my bed, taken from inside my room. The timestamp on the bottom? Last Tuesday, the night I'd sworn I'd barricaded my door. My hand shook so bad I dropped it. The cops finally took me seriously, but their search turned up 0 fingerprints, no footprints, nada. "He's a ghost," one muttered. I moved out for a week, crashing on couches, but when I came back to grab clothes, the air smelled off. Like wet earth and something sweet, rotting. My laptop was open on the desk, screen glowing. A single tab was pulled up, my Instagram profile, zoomed in on a tagged photo of my parents' new address in Germany. The cursor hovered over the message button. That's when I realized he wasn't just watching. He was teaching me how easy it'd be to hurt everyone I loved. I bought a dog, a huge, scarred-up Rottweiler mix from the shelter named Tank. The worker said he'd neutralize intruders. For 3 nights, I actually slept. Then, on the 4th night, Tank's barking turned into this strangled whimper. I found him crouched in the corner of the living room, tail tucked, staring at the back door. The deadbolt was unlocked. Not broken, not picked, just unlocked, like someone had a key. My hands were slick with sweat as I relocked it, but when I turned around, Tank was growling at the couch. At nothing. That's when I noticed the indent on the cushions. Still warm, like someone had been sitting there, watching me the whole time. I called the cops again, but they just took another report. The officer's parting words? Maybe get a security system. I wanted to punch him. I had one. The breaking point came when I found my own clothes missing. Not just any clothes. My gym hoodie, the one I'd worn the day I first noticed the delivery guy. It reeked of sweat, so I tossed it in the hamper. Now it was gone. In its place, a note tucked into my pillowcase, written in shaky block letters. You looked comfy. That's it. No threats, just possession. I snapped. I drove to the 24-hour Walmart, bought 3 trail cams, and rigged them around the house, hidden in bushes and under eaves. No Wi-Fi, no signals to mess with, just raw SD cards. That night, I pretended to sleep, bat in hand, every light off. Around 3 a.m., the trail cam by the back gate snapped a photo. The notification buzzed my phone. My stomach dropped. There he was, face pressed against the kitchen window, hands cupped around his eyes like a kid at a toy store. Smiling, waiting that I didn't scream, didn't move, just stared at that photo until my vision blurred, my fingers numb around the bat. The timestamp said the pic was taken 2 minutes ago. He could still be out there. Or worse, inside already. My pulse roared in my ears as I crept to the kitchen, phone clutched in one hand, the other gripping the bat like a lifeline. The window was empty now, just my reflection staring back, pale and wide-eyed. Then I heard it, a soft click from the front door, the sound of the knob turning, not forced, not hurried, like someone who belonged there. Every hair on my neck stood up. The alarm system should have blared. Why wasn't it going off? I lunged for the keypad. The screen flashed, disarmed. User, Jake. But I hadn't touched it. The door creaked open. I don't remember charging at him. Just the thud of the bat connecting, the way his head snapped sideways like a broken doll. He didn't yell, didn't even stumble, just turned back to me slowly, that same empty smile stretching wider, blood trickling from his temple. Up close, he smelled like old paper and wet leaves. His eyes were wrong, pupils too large, swallowing the color whole. You're home, he whispered, voice raspy as dry leaves. My stomach twisted. Behind him, the door swung shut on its own. The lock snicked into place. That's when I noticed his hands. Not reaching for me, not holding a weapon, just dangling at his sides, fingers twitching like he was typing on air. Then the lights cut out. In the dark, I heard him inhale, deep and rattling, like he was tasting my fear. I swung the bat again. But this time he caught it mid-air with terrifying precision. His grip was ice cold, fingers wrapping around the aluminum like it was nothing. You don't understand yet, he whispered, pulling me closer until I could see my own terrified reflection in his black eyes. The smell of damp earth filled my nostrils, making me gag. Behind him, the trail cam I'd hidden in the bookshelf suddenly flashed, illuminating his face for half a second, and in that moment, I saw it. His skin wasn't right, not quite human. It moved slightly, like thousands of tiny insects crawling just beneath the surface. I tried to scream, but my voice died in my throat as he leaned in, his breath smelling like spoiled milk and copper. I've been waiting for you to see me, he said, smiling wider than any human mouth should stretch. That's when the power came back on with a buzz, and he was just gone. No door opening, no footsteps, just empty space where he'd been standing. The bat clattered to the floor. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial 911. When police arrived, they found all my trail cams smashed, the SD cards melted. The only proof was the blood on my bat, but lab tests came back inconclusive. Animal DNA, maybe, the technician said. I moved out that week. Some nights, though, when I'm half asleep in my new apartment, My phone will buzz with a delivery notification from an app one deleted months ago. The message always says the same thing. Your usual delivery guy has been assigned. I never open the door. I don't need to. I can feel him smiling through the wood. My partner Jamie and I moved into the townhouse on Cedar Lane last spring, thinking we'd scored the perfect rental, quiet street, big windows, and a price that didn't make me want to sob into my savings account. The only oddity was the vacant lot next door, a fenced-off rectangle of cracked concrete and weeds, with the skeleton of an unfinished house slumped in the back like a rotting animal carcass. We joked about it at first, free landscaping, until we noticed him. Every night, like clockwork between 10 and 11 p.m., a man would appear near the lot's crumbling back wall. Not lurking, not pacing, just standing, motionless, facing our house with the intensity of a sniper sighting a target. He was tall, wore a pressed gray overcoat even in the heat, and had this unnatural posture, spine rigid as a ruler. No phone, no cigarette, no reason to be there. Just watching WB the third night, Jamie's creepy homeless guy theory collapsed. This man was clean, shoes polished, hair neatly parted, hands clasped behind his back like a soldier at parade rest. We called the non-emergency police line, but the officer who came just shrugged. Private property. He's not trespassing your place. Then, at 3:17 a.m. on Friday, our doorbell rang. A shrill, robotic ding-dong that shot us both upright in bed. No one was there. Not a shadow, not a footprint. We checked the Nest cam. The timestamp showed the gate, the empty sidewalk, then glitchy static. The next 5 nights played out the same. Doorbell at 3 a.m., corrupted footage. Until one clip saved. There he was, inches from our gate, wearing what looked like a surgeon's cloth mask. No breathing, no blinking, for 17 minutes. Then the video cut to dawn, the gate untouched. That's when I noticed the neighbors across the street quickly closing their blinds whenever we stepped outside. Asterisk asterisk the next morning, I tried asking Mrs. Lowell, the elderly woman 2 doors down, about the lot while she watered her geraniums. The second I mentioned it, her knuckles went white around the watering can. "Don't poke around over there," she muttered, eyes darting to the lot's chain-link fence. Before I could press her, she shuffled inside and deadbolted her door. That afternoon, Jamie went full detective mode, searching county records, calling the rental agency. The agent, a chirpy woman named Lisa, insisted the lot was just a stalled development and laughed off the man. Probably a night owl walking his dog. But we'd never seen a dog, and the way he stood there, it wasn't natural. That night, we set up a second camera facing the lot from our bedroom window. At 10:07 p.m., right on schedule, he emerged from the unfinished house's shadow. No door, no gate opening, just there, like he'd been paused and unpaused. Jamie zoomed in. His mask wasn't cloth. It was flesh-toned, sewn onto his face with thick, uneven stitches. BY week 2. The 3 a.m. doorbell rings became so predictable I'd jerk awake at 2:59, hard hammering. We stopped checking the cameras because the footage always corrupted, except for one clip where the audio somehow survived. No footsteps, no wind, just a wet, rhythmic clicking, like a tongue peeling off the roof of a mouth. Then, a whisper, "You're home." Jamie deleted it immediately, but we both knew we hadn't imagined it. The final straw was the mud. Our townhouse had a narrow utility corridor out back, barely shoulder width, just pipes and a water heater. One morning, we found boot prints, size 12 at least, leading from the lot's fence to our back door. The kicker? It hadn't rained in 19 days, and the mud smelled sweet, like rotting fruit. That's when Jamie called the landlord, demanding to break the lease. His response, "You're the 4th tenants to ask. Nobody ever stays." We couldn't just leave without answers, so Jamie tracked down the last tenants, a couple named Mark and Sophia who'd lived here 6 months prior. Their Instagram showed a sunny, normal life, until their posts abruptly stopped. When Jamie finally got Mark on the phone, his voice dropped to a whisper. "You've seen him then?" He refused to meet in person but sent a rambling email. The man in the lot had a name, the supervisor, left behind by the original construction crew. "He's not alive, but he's not dead. He's just checking." The email ended with a warning, "Don't let him inside. He'll rearrange things. First your house, then you." That night, I obsessively checked the locks, but at 3 a.m., the doorbell didn't ring. Instead, we heard scratching, long, deliberate drags of fingernails against the back door. The Nest Cam showed nothing. Just us, hysterical in the kitchen, and the faint sound of something humming. The next morning, we found the first gift. On our porch sat a child's lunchbox, rusted shut, filled with something that sloshed thickly when I nudged it. Jamie used a stick to pry it open, black liquid, syrupy and stinking of that same sweet decay. Beneath the sludge was a Polaroid of our townhouse, taken from the lot. The windows were all wrong, boarded up like it had been abandoned for years. Worse, a shadowy figure stood in our bedroom window. Jamie's hands shook so badly she dropped the photo. That afternoon, we caved and called a priest. Father Mendoza arrived at dusk, took one look at the lot, and made the sign of the cross. "This land is a mouth," he said. "It's hungry." He refused to step onto the property, but left us a vial of holy water, which evaporated by midnight. At 10 p.m., the man appeared again. This time, he wasn't alone. 3 figures stood behind him, all in masks, all perfectly still. None of them blinked. That night, we barricaded ourselves in the bedroom, pushing the dresser against the door like kids afraid of monsters. It didn't matter. I woke up at 4 a.m. to the smell of wet earth and something metallic, like old blood. The room was freezing. Jamie was already awake, gripping my arm, so tight her nails left half-moons in my skin. "Listen," she breathed. Downstairs, we heard footsteps, not sneaking, not frantic. Methodical. Someone walking from the kitchen to the living room, pausing, then circling back, like they were inspecting the place. The Nest Cam app on my phone showed nothing, just pitch-black static. Then, a sound I'll never unhear. The creak of the utility corridor door opening, the one we never used because it led straight to the lot. Jamie muffled a sob as the footsteps climbed the stairs. They stopped outside our door. No breathing, no knocking, just waiting. The dresser didn't budge, but at dawn, we found the back door wide open, the floor smeared with that same sweet mud that we fled to a motel the next day. But the clerk took one look at our address and paled. "Cedar Lane? You're the ones living next to the hollow lot." He wouldn't say more, just slid our key across the counter like it was contaminated. That's when the text started. Unknown number, no area code. Just photos of us sleeping in the motel room, timestamped that same night. The last one showed the man's stitched mask pressed against the window, his reflection blurred as if he were inside the glass. Jamie called the police, but they brushed us off, until Officer Ruiz, the only one who'd listen, pulled us aside. "That lot's been there since the 50s, he muttered. "Every structure built there collapses. Every family leaves. But the original builder? He swore it wasn't the ground. Said something lived in the foundation." He wouldn't elaborate, just handed me a slip of paper with an address, a nursing home on the edge of town. "Ask for Mr. Hargrove. He's the last one left who knows." Mr. Hargrove was a skeleton with skin, his hands trembling around an old photo album. "We called it anchor work," he rasped. In 1957, his crew was hired to build affordable housing on the lot, but the foundations kept cracking. Then the foreman brought in a specialist, a man in a gray coat who buried jars of black liquid in the concrete. First night, he stood watch like a sentry. Next morning, the foreman was gone. Hargrove's voice broke as he flipped to a photo. Workers pouring cement over a child's lunchbox, the same rusted one left on our porch. He said it had stabilized the land. But things got wrong. Tools went missing. Men reported seeing their own faces in the windows at night. The project was abandoned after 3 workers vanished, but the specialist stayed. He's not a man. He supervises. Makes sure the foundation stays fed. Jamie choked out. Fed with what? Hargrove just pointed to the album's last page. A list of tenant names, ours freshly scribbled in pencil that we raced back to the motel. But the clerk said our room had been canceled. "You checked out hours ago," he insisted, showing the ledger, our signatures forged in shaky script. The lot was pulling us back. That night, we parked down the street, watching our townhouse through binoculars. At exactly 10 p.m., the man emerged, but this time, he carried a suitcase. He placed it by our door, then knocked. The door swung open on its own. Inside, the walls were streaked with mud, the furniture rearranged into a perfect circle. The man stepped inside, and the door closed behind him. Our phones buzzed simultaneously. A video file, sent from our own cloud account, showed us sleeping inside the house. Jamie on the couch, me curled on the floor, while the man knelt between us, stitching something into the carpet. The timestamp? Tomorrow's date. We didn't scream. We didn't speak. We just drove until the gas light blinked, praying whatever was in that house couldn't follow paperwork that we never went back. Not for our clothes, not for the deposit, nothing. The rental agency kept our last month's pay, lease violation fees, but we didn't fight it. We moved 3 states away, changed our numbers, and for months, I'd wake up clawing at my own skin, convinced I smelled that sweet rot under my nails. Jamie started therapy. I started drinking. Then, exactly 1 year later, Zillow emailed me a price reduction alert for our old townhouse. The listing photos showed fresh paint, new floors, and in every mirror's reflection, a blurred gray shape near the lot's fence. That night, I caved and checked the old Nest Cam login. The feed was live. A young couple laughed in our kitchen, unpacking boxes. At 10:07 p.m., the motion sensor triggered. The man stood at the lot's wall, his stitched mask now slightly tilted, as if smiling. Behind him, 2 new figures had joined the others. Their postures looked familiar. My hands shook so badly I spilled my whiskey. Because one of them was scratching its neck the way Jamie always did when stressed that I never told Jamie. Some truths are too heavy to share. We still jump at doorbells, still check every window lock twice. Last month, we drove past a construction site, and I swear I saw a lunchbox half buried in the cement. Jamie didn't notice. But when we got home, there was mud on the welcome mat, dry and flaking, like it had been there for years. I scooped it into a baggie and mailed it to Father Mendoza. No return address, no note, just a silent plea for someone, anyone, to confirm we're really gone. Sometimes at 3 a.m., I catch myself staring at our security cam feed, waiting for the pixels to glitch. They never do. But last Tuesday, Jamie asked me why I'd drawn a circle with all our furniture while she was asleep. I hadn't, and that's when I realized the lot doesn't need geography. It just needs witnesses. The supervisor's work is never done. My name's Daniel, and up until last semester, I thought the scariest thing about college would be finals. Then I moved into this apartment. It's a cramped 2-bedroom in one of those old downtown buildings, the kind with peeling wallpaper and radiators that clang like ghosts at 3 a.m. My roommates, Tyler and Marco, were cool with it. The rent was dirt cheap, and we were close enough to campus to stumble home after parties. But the first weird thing happened the week we moved in. Construction noises started above us, hammering, dragging, like someone was renovating at midnight. We complained to the super, and that's when he told us the floor above ours was empty. Sealed off, he said. No tenants, no workers. That we laughed it off. Old buildings creak, right? But then the noises got deliberate. Footsteps pacing exactly where our beds were. Furniture screeching across the floor like it was being rearranged over and over. And the dripping. God, the dripping. This slow, inconsistent tap-tap-tap in the walls, like something was leaking, but maintenance found nothing. Tyler, the skeptic, swore it was pipes. Marco joked about squatters. But then Marco's toothbrush vanished from his cup one morning. We tore the bathroom apart, and that night, it was back, damp, like it had just been used. That's when we started locking our doors. Things escalated after Marco's toothbrush incident. Tiny stuff kept disappearing. A sock, a charger, a half-eaten bag of chips, only to reappear days later in places that made no sense. Like my favorite hoodie, which I knew I'd left on my chair, hanging inside the locked laundry closet, reeking of something sour. Tyler accused us of messing with him, but his hands shook when he said it. We started whispering, even during the day, as if the walls were listening. Then came the night I woke up to a sound I'll never unhear, a wet, guttural cough right above my pillow, like someone or something was sick or laughing. The ceiling creaked under its weight. I didn't sleep for days. Marco, the bravest or dumbest of US, decided to investigate. He dragged a chair to the narrow maintenance hatch in the laundry room, a rusty square in the ceiling we'd never noticed before. When he poked it, the metal groaned open an inch, like it wasn't fully sealed. That's when we saw the boards. Thick, splintered wood nailed from the inside, blocking the crawl space. But here's the fucked up part. The nails were rusted, ancient. Whatever was up there had been sealed in for years, or chose to stay. We bolted out of the apartment and called the super, who just shrugged. "That space ain't been opened since the 80s, he said. "You boys hearing rats. But rats don't turn doorknobs." That's when Tyler bought the motion-activated camera. He rigged it inside the laundry room, angled straight at the hatch, and didn't tell me or Marco. Said he wanted unbiased footage. For 2 nights, nothing. Then, at 3:17 a.m. on Wednesday, the camera triggered. The video was grainy, but clear enough to make my stomach drop. The hatch opened, not all the way, just a slit, like something was testing the space. Then a hand slid out, pale, too long, with fingers that twitched like spider legs. It groped the air for a few seconds before vanishing back into the dark. The hatch shut silently. We played it 10 times, arguing over shadows, until Marco vomited in the sink. That hand wasn't human, and it knew where we lived. The super refused to watch the video. "Kids and their pranks," he muttered, but his face went gray when we mentioned the hatch. "The cops? Useless." The officer who took our report kept sighing, like we were wasting his time. "Unless it breaks in, there's no crime here," he said. Breaks in, as if it hadn't already. That night, I triple-checked my bedroom lock and shoved a dresser against the door. I woke up to a sound, fingernails dragging down the other side of the wood. Then silence. When I mustered the courage to open the door, the hallway was empty. But on the floor, just outside my room, was a single wet footprint. Barefoot, too big to be any of ours. And toes. Too many toes that we stopped sleeping after that. Tyler moved his mattress into the living room, claiming it was strategic, but we all knew he just couldn't stand being alone. Marco started carrying a kitchen knife in his back pocket, his eyes permanently bloodshot from caffeine and paranoia. Then came the morning I found the handprints. I'd passed out from exhaustion, and when I woke up, my blanket was tangled around my legs and streaked with greasy, grayish smudges, like someone with filthy hands had groped me in my sleep. The worst part? My bedroom door was still locked from the inside. The dresser hadn't moved. That's when I realized it didn't need the door. It was coming from somewhere else. The walls, the ceiling, maybe even from under the bed. Marco snapped first. He stormed into the laundry room with a crowbar, screaming at the hatch like it was a living thing. "Show yourself, you fucking coward." Tyler and I had to drag him back as the ceiling began to thud in response. Heavy, deliberate impacts, something huge shifting above us. A fine dust rained down from the cracks. We stood there, frozen, as a new sound started, a wet, rhythmic clicking, like a tongue smacking against teeth. Then, clear as a whisper, a voice. Not quite human, but close enough to make out words. "You're home late." It was mimicking Marco's girlfriend from 2 nights prior. The super had warned us the building was old, but he never mentioned it was alive. The next morning, we found proof that changed everything. I woke up first and nearly stepped in something sticky in the hallway. A trail of dark, viscous fluid, like oil mixed with blood, leading from the hatch to the bathroom door. Inside, the sink was smeared with the same substance, and the mirror had fresh scratches, as if someone had dragged nails across the glass. But the real horror came when Marco checked his phone. Overnight, his photo album had 127 new images, all taken in the dark. The first few showed only shadows, but the last ones, you could clearly see a gaunt, pale figure with bulging eyes crouched in the corner of our bedroom as we slept. The thing was learning to use technology. That afternoon, Tyler vanished. He'd left to buy more security cameras, but never returned. His phone was found in the alley behind the building, still on. The screen cracked, but the last video intact. 37 seconds of him running, the camera shaking, until he fell and the footage captured something approaching. A silhouette moving wrong, its limbs bending at impossible angles. The worst part was the audio. Before the video cut out, you could hear Tyler whispering, "Oh God, there's more than one." That's when Marco and I made the only decision left: run. But when we opened the apartment door, the hallway was unnaturally dark and silent. Every other apartment door, wide open. Something had convinced everyone to leave, or taken them. We decided to escape through the roof. As we climbed the emergency stairs, we heard noises below, metal scraping, climbing toward us. The roof access door was blocked by old boards, just like our hatch. Marco pried them loose with bleeding hands, and that's when I saw it. The stairwell walls were covered in tally marks, some so old they looked pre-war. The whole building was a trap, and we were just the latest idiots to fall for it. When the door finally gave way, the smell hit us like a truck. Rotting meat and bleach, the same stench we'd caught whiffs of in our apartment on bad nights. The roof was empty except for three things: a pile of dirty clothes, I recognized my missing hoodie, a phone ringing endlessly, Tyler's, which should have been in the alley, and an open hatch in the center, leading back inside. That's when I understood there was no escape because it didn't want us dead. It wanted us to stay. Marco looked at me with tears in his eyes as the stairwell noises grew louder. "Daniel," he said, holding something from his pocket. "My toothbrush, the one I'd sworn I threw away. It always comes back. I still live in that apartment. People ask why I don't move. But after a while, you stop trying to run. You start waiting for the sounds at night. Sometimes, I even answer when the voice mimics my missing friends. Because in the end, you either get used to it or become part of what lives in the walls. And me? I'm not sure which one I am anymore."